Oh God, look at it. Isn't it so beautiful? Oh my goodness.
And how can each of us be a part of this? We're going to have a shared investment.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Yarn to Table. I'm Celeste, and this is a show about my knitting life. So apologies in advance, I'm a little bit rusty, so if I'm a little awkward or I have trouble moving from segment to segment, that's why. And I'm popping in now between traveling to record an episode, so I have a lot to talk about, so it's probably not going to be any shorter than any other episode. Yeah, I'm excited to make time to be here with you today to catch up on the world of knitting. If you don't know, we do have a year-long knit-along going on right now called the Fiber Quest KAL. I'm going to link below a playlist with a video explaining the KAL overall, as well as all of the videos I've made so far about different fibers. Every 2 months, we knit with a different type of fiber to try to expand our horizons a little bit. And right now, we are coming up on the end of plant fibers. So I do have a finished object thread up in the group now. Thank you. I can't remember anymore who it was that pointed out in the chatter thread that it hadn't gone up yet because I've been traveling and kind of out of it. So thank you for the reminder. I have that up now, but I am probably going to go ahead and leave it open at least a few days into July, just because I want to make sure everybody has time to get their finished objects in there, and since I was a little late on the uptake of posting the thread, I want to give you a little bit of a buffer. So I'm going to be traveling through the end of June, and I figure I will maybe just go ahead and leave it up through about the first week of July. So just try and get those in as soon as you can. The regular rules still apply. You still need to have finished the object by the end of June. I'm just giving you a little bit more time to post it in case there are people that would have posted it already, but they didn't have a finished object thread. So after that, we will be moving on to the land of silk, and as I said, I'm going to get the silk fibers video recorded sometime in early July when I get back from Cambridge. So you can look for that, and in the meantime, start thinking about what you want to make for the land of silk, and that'll be running July and August. Today, you may have noticed I am wearing my new finished object. This is actually not my newest finished object, but this is a new finished object, and it is the Tenya sweater by Caitlin Hunter. So, see, it has nice little drop shoulder, short sleeves. I'll go ahead and stand up so that you can kind of see it, but it's not going to be the best view, and I will let you know. I've already a while ago posted finished object photos on Instagram and Ravelry, so you can check that out for kind of a better idea. But here it is. I've got this beautiful little lace with this sort of bumpy border. Sorry, I have long johns on. Very glamorous. Now you know the truth. Most of the time I'm wearing sweatpants when I'm recording, even if I've put on a sweater to show you. I don't wear real clothes when I'm around the house. I just don't. So this is the Tenya. I have knitted out of Woolen Vine Footsie in Dirty on Purpose, and it is definitely one of my favorite things I've ever knit. It was fun. I knitted in about a month. Part of that was that the finished object was so exciting that I was just really excited to have it. So I enjoyed knitting it, but it's definitely more of a product knit, but I was just so excited about the product that I felt like I zoomed on it. It's knit from the bottom up, in the round, splitting at the armpits, and then here for the neckline, she tells you, you can leave them on, you can leave the stitches live, and then sort of pick them up for the neckline, or you can bind off if you want something that's a bit sturdier because it kind of creates that seam edge. And that's what I did. You can even really see it. But that's what I did. I will say picking up the right number of stitches on that bind off edge was a little bit challenging, and if there's any flaw in this, it is that there's a couple stitches here where picking that up just was not the absolute smoothest transition ever, but I think it's pretty much hidden, especially because of the variegation of the yarn. So I think I'm just going to be aware if and when I knit another one of these to be extra careful with kind of measuring out. I mean, I did the thing where you take the removable stitch markers and you kind of go, okay, between this one and this one I need to pick up this many stitches, right? I did that, but I could have done more of those to just make it a little bit more even, and I think I'll do that when I make another one, which I do think I'm going to do eventually, just because it has proven to be so incredibly wearable. This is just exactly the kind of thing that I want to wear. I love this shape. I just find it to be really, really, really fun to wear. So more about that later. I don't think there was one more thing I wanted to let you know about how I sort of did a variation on this. So I knit the like what I would call the medium, the third smallest size, but I could tell by the measurements that the sleeves would be a little bit tight in the medium, and I'd also heard other people who had knit the Tenya sort of talk about how they thought the sleeves were a little tight. And the sleeves are meant to be fitted, like that's what I wanted, but I don't want them to be uncomfortable. So I just picked up the number for the next size up, the number of stitches when I picked that up. It was really easy to just squeeze those in. It wasn't actually that big of a difference, and I think that worked out perfectly. So that would be my alteration that I made. Other than that, I knit it all exactly to pattern, and I just think it turned out exquisitely. I really, really loved it. You'll know that I was alternating skeins once I got past the lace, and then when I got to the point where I split, I think, yeah, I continued to alternate, but then when I got to the part where I broke for the shoulder shaping, where you're doing like one half and then the other half, at that point it was such a small area that I just stopped. I didn't worry about alternating the skeins, and then I also didn't worry about alternating the skeins for the neckline or for the sleeves, and I think it looks perfectly seamless. I don't think you can tell at all. So these skeins were fairly similar anyway. I don't think every single one of them was exactly the same dye lot, but they were pretty similar. So, you know, I would say that's just like a judgment call on your end. If you feel like you can eyeball the difference between the skeins, I probably wouldn't knit an entire sleeve with just one skein, but since I couldn't eyeball the difference, I just went ahead and did it. But for the large body where there was actually, you know, going to be moving from one skein to another because of how much yarn I was using up, I still think alternating was a really good way to go with this. So that was my experience with that. And I think that's all I have to say about the Tenya for now. It's lovely. I totally understand why everyone and their mother is knitting one, and I think I'm going to knit too. So can't recommend it highly enough. I've definitely seen people sort of doing their own thing with it in terms of the length. I think it's a really cute, just very slightly cropped length, but people have different style preferences, so I've seen some people knit it a little longer, and I've seen people knit it shorter and make it like a real crop top. So that's something to think about if you're sort of into it, but you're just not sure it's exactly the style that you would wear. Things like that are always just such an easy alteration to make, to get something to be more in line with what you want it to be. So I would definitely recommend checking out the many, many, many project pages for the Tenya just to see the range of different fabrics people made, different fibers, different colors, and different variations that they did on it, because there's a lot out there and some really inspiring stuff. So that's the Tenya. I finished another sweater. It's not so exciting though, so I'm really not into it. That's the Silver Monk sweater here. See how I can show this to you. So this is the front. And then the back has this scoop with a tie. And I knit this from a We Are Knitters kit. Was it We Are Knitters? Or was it Wool and the Gang? It's We Are Knitters. It says right there. Okay, it says in my notes. I knit this from a We Are Knitters kit. I'd never done a kit before. I'm not super impressed. I was looking for something that would be really, really simple and mindless, but would still be a sweater. I wanted to knit this while I was in Wales. That's when I knit it, and I wanted it to be really mindless. So, you know, obviously, like big old garter stitch, no shaping, seems like a good way to go. The thing is about this pattern is like, it was just really, really screwed up in terms of like the fit. Like, I was knitting it to gauge, but and I'm knitting it with the very, like, I know cotton can be heavy and stretch out and stuff, but I'm knitting it with the very yarn that it was designed for. And I still had to really, really, really change my stitch count in order for it to not be just enormous. So I shortened it a lot, and then I also decided at a certain point that I just wanted to do short sleeves, so I did that. And I did end up making them too narrow because, you know, I was like not following directions for an actual short sleeve. If I liked the sweater enough, I would go back and I would rip these out and I would make them fit better. But the thing is, like, that's not the only problem. I just don't like the way that it looks. I feel like all of the garter stitch is kind of bulky. I don't like the way that the neckline sits. I don't love how it all sits with the scoop back is just a little bit off. It's just off in a lot of ways, and you know, I didn't put that much energy into it. It was mainly just so I had something to work on while I was in Wales. It's fine. I'm not like, you know, totally devastated. But I'm disappointed because, like, I feel like the whole point was that it would be something simple, and while the actual stitch was simple, this took more brain power to try to make it fit properly as I was knitting it than a more complicated sweater would have taken if it were just a well-written pattern that fit well, you know. And so I just thought that was kind of silly, and like, you pay, you know, a markup obviously for getting a kit because of the like simplicity of it, and I feel like all of that was just missing. I think I've seen much better written patterns by indie designers than this big company had done, you know, and like, I don't know, I don't want to just like rag on them all the time. I've only had one experience, and I don't even really see the point of this being like a product review sort of segment, because I don't think that's what this show is about. It's really just about my experience. But my experience with this particular project was a bit of a disappointment. And I don't really know what to do with it now. So, I mean, obviously I could frog it, but then I'm just going to have a ton of worsted weight cotton yarn, and I honestly don't know what to do with all that worsted weight cotton yarn. I'm not a huge cotton knitter. I don't think I want another worsted weight cotton sweater, because I think that the worsted and the garter is just a little bit bulky, and so like, I just, like, I could come up with things to do with the yarn, but I'm just not super excited to do that. And I think I just kind of want to let it go. So I don't know, maybe I need to find a home for the sweater. Honestly, if there's anyone out there that like wants this sweater and you will pay me shipping, I will send this to you. I will send you the extra yarn. So if you want, you can go in and like change the size of the sleeves if you wanted, or make them longer, or do whatever you want to change it. I mean, probably nobody wants it, but I'm just putting it out there. I don't know what to do with this. I'm honestly probably going to let it sit around for a while and then take it to a thrift store. So if one of you out there wants this, just let me know. Even if you just want it for the yarn, honestly, because I'm just tired of it at this point. I'm just kind of over it. So, I don't know. I could be less wasteful and try to find something to do with this yarn, but the thing is, like, for me, I don't like knitting in a way where I'm trying to use up yarn. Like, it takes the fun out of it for me. It's meant to be fun. If I'm not excited about yarn, I don't want to knit with that yarn. I just want to knit things that make me happy. And, you know, I know it can be a little wasteful, but if you find somebody else that wants it, then you find somebody else that wants it. So, I don't know. That's where I am with that. Sorry, a little bit of a downer. That's the other sweater that I worked on since I've seen you last. And then I have another FO, which is a pair of socks. You may also have seen this on Instagram and Ravelry, but before I left for Wales, I did finish these knee socks finally. And you know, you'll know that, you know, they were kind of a laborious task. I'd never done knee socks before, and I kind of didn't have enough yarn. Luckily, Andy of 10,000 Stitches came to the rescue, sent me some leftovers, and that really saved me in terms of being able to get through the foot of both of them with uninterrupted stripes. I came in and I did a heel with just some Knit Pick Stroll in the Dove Gray Heather, which is like my go-to. I love Dove Gray Heather. It's just perfect. So I thought that, you know, was a very neutral. It doesn't match any of the other stripes. Trying to match this gray, I would have just gotten like kind of close and not really there. Even doing white, I wouldn't have matched the white. And then black, I think, would have just stood out a little bit too much. So I think the Dove Gray was just really perfect for just kind of a neutral heel. I did do an afterthought heel. This was my first afterthought heel, which if you don't know, it turns out you just basically cut into your knitting and then knit a toe. It's just a wedge toe. So I don't know how it fits yet because I haven't tried these on. I wanted to sort of show them to you fresh. Well, that's not true. I've tried them on for photos. I haven't worn them. And I feel like you kind of have to wear them throughout the day to really get an idea of how they fit. You know what I mean? So anyway, I can't really report on whether I'm a big fan of the fit of the afterthought heel, but I certainly see like its many advantages, and it was fun to do. I enjoyed cutting into the knitting and everything. You know, it kind of felt a little bit magical, and that was nice. Even as they're not quite as tall as I want them to be. You can see in the photo, and I'll insert it here actually, how high they come up on my legs. I feel like they're just a really tall sock, and they're not really a knee sock. And like, that's fine. I wanted them to be knee socks. I wanted to knit knee socks. At a certain point, I just got really tired of them, and I wasn't going to go to the trouble that it would take to find a way to like make them that much taller. I kind of just wanted them to be done. So it's fine. I think they actually turned out really cute. I'm very into these stripes. I like, as much as I was getting tired of looking at them while I was knitting on them, when I put them on, I thought these are actually really, really cute. I really like a crazy stripy long sock. So, you know, in the future, I may do a crazy knee sock that's really all the way up to the knee. I don't know. But these are done. I'm glad they're done, and I actually like how they turned out, so I do think I'm going to get some wear out of them and enjoy wearing them. So even though it was a little bit of a frustrating process at times, which was really just entirely due to me like jumping in and not really thinking through how I was doing it much, it worked out. So that's another FO. That's 3 down, and my whip that I have for you is a half object now. And that is another sock. Oh God, look at it. Isn't it so beautiful? Oh my goodness. Retrosaria. Retrosaria. So this yarn you may have seen on other shows. You'll remember this beautiful label if you have. This is Retrosaria Mondim, I think is how you say it. They are a Portuguese yarn company, and I think a local yarn store, or it's put out by the store or something like that. I don't know. We're actually going to go to Lisbon in January for our 10th anniversary, and I will know more when I start looking into visiting. But gorgeous, 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 gorgeous yarn. Completely obsessed. Obviously it knits up with this sort of micro stripe effect. There are some other really lovely colors. I have another skein that I got that's like blues and blacks and pinks. That's going to be really, really great. I think it's the same color scheme that Tommy of Squirrel Pie Productions has been knitting socks with recently, but it might be a slightly different one. But anyway, I'll show you more of an up-close look at this. So you can see, like, comparing the skein to knit up the sort of colors and how they work together. It's just really, really beautiful. This is 100% non-superwash wool. So it is intended for socks. Obviously, most people say you need a little bit of nylon in there for your socks to keep them from wearing out. And I thought about doing contrasting heels and or toes with some nylon. But in the end, I really wanted the look of just the uninterrupted yarn, even though it does kind of look a little interrupted because with the Fish Lips Kiss, the micro stripes stack on each other, which is not my favorite. But anyway, I decided I didn't want contrasting heels and toes, and that I was going to be okay with this being a bit of an experiment in socks knit without nylon. I know there are people out there that say, you know what, you don't actually need it, it's fine. And also for me, I wear socks in shoes. I wear them for real, like I walk around in them, but I do not wear them inside on their own without slippers. I wear socks in shoes, I wear socks in slippers. I will not just walk around on my hardwood floors with just socks on, which I've heard is actually the hardest thing on your socks, is when you wear them without anything else. I don't know if that's true, but anyway. So this is just going to be a bit of an experiment to what these can handle. I will say, while I was knitting on these, and I had been knitting, I'd finished the Tenya, excuse me, and the Tenya is BFL, so it has a bit of a tooth to it, but it's still superwash. I was knitting with cotton, which is, it's fine. I don't like the feel of it as much as wool. I had been knitting with, superwash, merino, and it just felt so nice to have natural, non-superwash wool back in my hands. It is sheepier. It's not just that it's toothier, it has almost a stickiness or an oiliness. I don't know how to say it without it sounding weird. Like, it's not really sticky or oily, it's just has this depth to the texture of it. There's none of the waxy glossiness of a superwash. And it smells wonderful, and it's just, it was really nice to knit socks with non-superwash, because I just love knitting with non-superwash. Then the more I do it, the more I really enjoy it. And I know that's like the trendy thing to say now, so I'm not, I don't think I'm sharing like an original idea, or that I'm like some kind of iconoclast for being all about the non-superwash. Like, obviously, I'm just saying what everyone else has been saying lately. But it's a cliche because it's true. It's good stuff. So anyway, I did a standard rib here instead of a twisted rib, because I think it has like a kind of old-fashioned handmade quality to it, and sometimes on a certain pair of socks I really just wanted to have that look. And I was definitely feeling that with these colors. So I did that. Fish Lips Kiss. I've been doing my Fish Lips Kiss where I go down all the way to just 4 stitches on each needle, meaning I'm doing magic loops, so I have 2 needles. So I go down to a circumference of 8 stitches, which is way fewer than the pattern says, but I've been doing that to get like a pointier heel, and I think it's been fitting me a little bit better, so I like that. Wedge toe, Kitchener. Pretty simple, not a lot to it. So I have not cast on the second one yet, but those are my kind of on-the-go socks that are going right now. And that's everything I have in terms of knitting. I do have a couple other types of crafts to talk about in a moment, but I want to talk about On the Horizon first, kind of get all the knitting content together, and then I'll share some sort of extras for anyone who's interested in extras. So, and then I'll maybe have a little bit of a chit chat. But I want to talk about whales a little bit, but I've shared a lot on Instagram, and it factors into a couple of the things that I'm going to be showing you. So I don't know how much I'll actually have to say about it or how much time I'll have left. So we'll find out. Anyway, On the Horizon. So I'm still thinking about summer garments because it's June is not yet over, and I think that by the time I finish the next garment that I cast on, it'll probably still be summer. So I want to get at least one more in there. Now, I had been thinking about something I was planning on knitting that's like short sleeve, and it has a wool and silk blend that would be for the Land of Silk, but I'm just not excited about it, and I'm starting to get excited about some other ideas. So I'm just going to go ahead and follow my heart. I do have a sweater's quantity of this wool that I, bought a little while ago that I was going to try to knock out, but like I said, I'm just trying to kind of prioritize what makes me happy with knitting right now, and kind of let go of the sort of I should knit this, I should knit that sort of mentality. And anyway, what I'm excited to knit next is also from Stash, so it's pretty much guilt-free. And that is some Quince & Co. Kestrel, which is an Aran weight sort of ribbon plied linen yarn. And I bought a sweater's quantity of it a couple years ago with the intention of making a Frances by Olga Baraya Kefelian. And that is like this lovely open back top. I'll insert a photo. And it's actually knit from side to side, from the one sort of sleeve opening to the other. So it seems like it would be really fun knit because it would be an interesting construction. I think it's beautiful. One of the things that has been holding me up about knitting it is that with the open back, it's just something where I would be more comfortable wearing it at a different weight than I am now. So I have gained some weight in the last couple years, and I'm kind of dealing with, I don't know, like trying to lose it / trying to just accept myself / all of that fun stuff. So just kind of unclear on what my body is going to be like long term. Haven't had children yet. Who knows what that's going to do. And I just kind of feel like I've been sitting on this yarn, wanting to knit this top, and I've been sort of like waiting to be thinner or something so that I can knit it, and I'm done with that. Like right now, I just don't want to live my life waiting to be thinner anymore. So instead I started looking at some other things that I could do with the Kestrel, and I came across the Davis by Pam Allen, which is this really lovely top. It's kind of like the Tenya in a way in terms of how it's got this like boxy drop shoulder with more fitted sleeves, which is a silhouette that I love. I think it is extremely fashion forward. I think that it's really fun to wear. It's comfortable. I think it looks good on me. It makes me feel comfortable. This is a top that I think I would get a lot of wear out of. I love the Frances, but with the Frances, it's like I feel like I would be either insecure when I wore it, or I would want to like layer it over a tank, or you know, it would just be this whole thing. And I feel like the Davis is really, really wearable. So I want to just go ahead and do that instead. It's by Pam Allen, who designed the Andromeda cardigan that I knit last year. I like a lot of her patterns. She has very nice, minimal kind of aesthetic, and the Andromeda was a very well written pattern. So I'm sure that the Davis is going to be a joy to whip up. Lots and lots of stockinette, so I think it could be a great mindless project. I'm hoping to be able to take it with me to Cambridge and kind of knit on that, as well as maybe knitting on a sock or two. Yeah, so that's going to be my next cast on, I believe. I do need to swatch for that. But yeah, that's going to be fun. And, you know, I'm just going to kind of extend the land of plants for myself. I'm not sure if I'm going to find something to knit out of silk for the land of silk, and I feel bad about that because I obviously want to like join in with you guys, but at the same time, like I said, I'm kind of trying to let go of sort of the obligation knitting and follow my heart a little bit more. So who knows, I guess? I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to start the Davis. Now, I mentioned about wanting to knit another Tenya, and I had been thinking it would be, so this is something I'm probably, let's be honest, I'm probably not going to knit it this year, because when I'm done with the Davis, I'm going to be like ready for fall, and I'm going to start knitting like woolly sweaters again, in all likelihood. But this is something I'm thinking about. So when I was knitting the Tenya, I was thinking it'd be cool to knit another one of these out of linen, because although with its short sleeve and the really airy fit and the lace, you can wear this in relatively warm weather. It's still not the most comfortable thing to wear on like a very, very hot summer day. However, out of linen, I think it would be ideal. I know it would probably change the drape and the fit and the shaping and everything a little bit, so I'm not sure exactly how it would come out in linen, but I know other people have done it. So I was thinking about it, like what color would be cute, and looking at yarn and kind of just like daydreaming about a future hypothetical second Tenya sweater. Then separate from that, I've been thinking about what I'm going to knit next, and one of the things that I told you guys I was planning on was the Amalia, which is also by Pam Allen, who I just mentioned, designed the Davis I'm about to knit and designed the Andromeda cardigan I knit last year. So she has this beautiful tank top with like a sort of handkerchief hem peplum that I love, called the Amalia, that I've been planning on knitting out of some black Lindy chain, which is a fingering weight chain, like, I don't think it's called chain flying because I think that's something else, but it's like a, anyway, kind of like a Ravenny plied linen yarn from Knit Picks. I had even swatched for it. I've shown you the swatch. I've talked about it. The swatch is a little transparent, which I don't mind, but the more I thought about it, because the Amalia is sort of close fitting to the body, I wasn't sure how wearable it was going to be at that gauge. And, you know, I can change up the gauge, I can do other things, I can whatever, and I'm not saying I'm not going to knit the Amalia at some point, but I just started thinking about whether there might be something else that I would rather do with that specific yarn, you know, like first. And then I thought that it would make a really cool Tenya, so it would just be a solid black linen Tenya, which I think would probably be like the most wearable thing in my entire wardrobe. Like, I feel like I would throw that on every single day of summer. I think that the lace would look so cute in black because you would see like light or like a little bit of light colored skin like showing through the black lace, and it would kind of have that effect of when you wear like a black eyelet top, which is just a really, really cute summer look. I wear black all the time. Tenya is totally wearable. Like, pretty into the idea of having this in my wardrobe. So maybe I'll knit that next year. I don't know. But in any regard, I kind of have these like a couple sweater quantities of yarn like those two linens. And the other one I mentioned that have been, you know, I bought them during like a Knit Pick sale a few years ago where I was really excited about certain patterns and I thought, I'm definitely going to make these and like, let me grab this cheap yarn for them. And then since then, they've kind of weighed on me a little bit because it's like I'm either not as excited about those patterns as I once was, or I just want to do other things or whatever. And, you know, lately I've kind of come up with some other alternative plans for ways of using some of those sweaters quantities that might be even more exciting and more in line with what I want to wear at this moment. So that's good, I think. The last on the horizon thing I want to share with you, and I don't know when I'm going to get around to doing this because it's definitely going to take a lot of brain power, but I got some yarn in Wales and I want to design a shawl inspired by Wales with this yarn. So I'll show you the yarn. I got 4 skeins of this. It is undyed. Even got a little bit of hay in it right there. Undyed, non-superwash, obviously. This is about 100 grams. It does not say how long it is, but I asked her and she said she thought it would probably be around what in America would be like a DK. So, oh, there's a little bit of grass in it here too. I think that was when I put it in the grass to take photos though. I think that was on me. Anyway, I'm not really sure exactly what the gauge is going to be like. So what I think I'm going to do is just kind of swatch with it and weigh my swatches and sort of calculate how much I can have and use and everything sort of based on that. Because, so the reason there's sort of not a ton of information, this is super, super local. It's actually from sheep in Ceredigion, which is the county where I was staying for most of my time in Wales. We spent a weekend where we went into Pembrokeshire, which is the county south of Ceredigion. But anyway, yeah, it says reared, shorn, and spun in Ceredigion, Wales. No dyes or coloring chemicals used. Penlawn Farm, Llanith. I can't say that very well, but that's my attempt. Ceredigion. And it gives all the other information, so that's there if you want it. So super hyper local, which is what I wanted very badly. And I kind of had in mind that I wanted to find yarn while I was there for a sweater. And I had written down like all these different sweaters that were sort of on the horizon that I could maybe look for yarn for. But I really wanted this yarn. There wasn't enough of it for a sweater. And I really liked the idea of designing something that was, you know, took more of myself and was more tied to the land and was like directly inspired by Wales. So I don't know when I'm going to actually be able to get around to doing that. Because obviously that's going to take a lot more brain power than just some mindless knitting that I've been sort of able to do lately. I mean, it probably seems like I've gotten a lot done since I last talked to you, and that's because it's been a month, but I have had long periods of like not doing a ton of knitting lately. My brain has been totally fried, and I've been really tired from travel and just various things. So anyway, I'm really, really, really excited to design something with this, but no promises as to when that's going to be. But it's really special. And like there were sheep in pastures on hillsides just surrounding us all the time. When I was in Lampeter, which is the college town where the university was, where I was based and you know, doing most of our workshops every day, you could just hear the sheep in the distance all the time, like it was like bird song. Like there were just sheep just surrounding you, just bleating in the distance. It was paradise, especially if you're someone who loves sheep. But yeah, so the fact that I got yarn that was from like a really local farm, I mean, I felt like I was basically knitting with the wool from the sheep that were like singing me to sleep every night when I had my window open and I was like listening to them. Yeah, it just feels really, really personal to have Ceredigion yarn specifically. So I'm really, really glad that I got that and brought it back. It was so perfect too because I went and I picked it out and I had like, I still had like a bunch of cash because I took out a bunch of cash when I got there just in case my bank shut down my debit card and I had trouble getting them to open it again because even though I told them I was traveling, like, you know, that can happen. So anyway, I took out all this cash and as I was getting toward the end of my stay, I was like, I need to get rid of this. So I went in and I had like exactly the right amount of cash to buy the yarn that I was going to buy, which just like worked out. And then as I go to pay, the woman asks me, she's like, do you have cash? Do you mind using cash? Because I pay this like farmer directly because she's like my neighbor and it would be easier for me if it were cash. And I was like, sweet. So I just felt like all of that was kind of faded in its own little way. Because those pounds were burning a hole in my pocket. So that is everything on the horizon. I want to share a couple other crafts which gets into Wales a little bit. So, and one of them is more directly a craft. The other one, I might be using that term a little loosely. But so the more clearly directly a craft thing, you will have seen this on Instagram if you follow me. And this is just a little embroidery sampler that I did a couple days after I got back. I was scheduled to have a sort of belated shared birthday celebration with my sister-in-law, whose birthday is the day before mine. So I turned 30 while I was in Wales, and I think I mentioned, I don't remember if I mentioned that or not. Anyway, so she and I did this thing at a tea store that was like a tea tasting and embroidery class, which was really fun. I actually am drinking some of the tea that she bought me while we were there, which is Lapsang Souchong, which is like a smoked tea. It's really good. I'm having it with some honey because I was a little afraid that the taste would be really intense. It's actually not as intense as I thought it would be, but it's nice with the honey. By the way, if you're one of those people that's like super annoyed when people talk about what they're drinking, I'm sorry. I know it seems totally unrelated, but I like hearing people say that. I'm big about tea. I'm big about food and drink in general, which is why this podcast is called Yarn to Table. Because I always sort of intended that hopefully like cooking and stuff would be a little bit a part of what I talk about sometimes, which it more is in vlogs, but anyway, so yeah, sorry if that annoys you, but I like talking about tea. I like when other people talk about tea, so I'm not going to stop. Anyway, so we went to this tea tasting and embroidery class, and I just kind of freehanded, made this up. I looked up an F, so that's for our last name. I looked up an F on my phone, and then I sort of just let the light shine through on my phone, and I traced around it with pencil. So that's how I got the F. And I just freehanded everything. And it was really fun. I did most of it in the class, and then I finished it up later that day at home. And I did some of these things for the first time. I hadn't done a French knot in a while. And then I'd done chain. I haven't embroidered anything in a while, but I learned these woven roses for the first time and this sort of fishbone leaf. And yeah, it was just a fun thing, and it got me, like, I've always really enjoyed embroidery, and it got me, you know, kind of wanting to do some more of it. So I don't know if that'll actually manifest. I don't have like a bunch of supplies sitting around, but I thought maybe I'll like order a little kit on Etsy or something like that, just for fun. But it's always, I mean, I might order a kit on Etsy. The other thing with embroidery though is it's always been something that I've done in like a more free-handed, self-expressive way. Like I don't do a ton of like improvisation in my knitting anymore. I used to when I was younger. I'm more into following patterns now, and I don't even alter the patterns much because I usually choose them to be exactly what I want to begin with, and I really like the meditation of it, and I don't think of it as a huge like creative expression thing. If I'm designing, that's one thing, but most of my knitting, I don't feel that how it's serving me is in a like personal creative expression so much. I have a lot of that in other areas of my life, and knitting is more about meditation for me. Embroidery has always been more about sort of improvisational sketching and creating my own images. Like in this class, there was a little thing you could follow, you know, but I kind of just went off and did my own thing. And that's sort of always my instinct with embroidery for some reason. So anyway, I don't know how much of that I'll be doing in the near future, but I would like to do some, and I really enjoyed it a lot. So look for somewhere to hang this up. And speaking of flowers, while I was in Wales, I collected some wildflowers and pressed them in a book. Wildflowers were like, that was my big takeaway from Wales, was just wildflowers. Like, spectacular wildflowers. Things that don't grow wild here that we cultivate in gardens, like foxgloves. Foxgloves. Wild there. Just spectacular, and they were everywhere. If you were in a random street with a random building, that building would be rock and it would have literal wildflowers growing out of the cracks in it. Like, they were just everywhere. And if you've seen my photos on Instagram, you probably picked up on that. But like, I want you to know that I wasn't looking for the most beautiful little tableaus and then snapping them and putting them on Instagram. It was everything. It was just everything. So wildflowers were like a huge, just everyday source of absolute joy and like profound feeling for me while I was there. And I collected a couple and pressed them, just little things here and there. And when I got back, I just searched on Amazon for like a way to display pressed flowers, and I found this. So it came in the mail today, and I actually just put them in. Wow, that is not going to help you see it. Okay, how do I show this? Oh my God, this is hard. Okay, what if I do this? Does that help? Okay, does that help a little bit? Okay, there we go. So anyway, it's not like a beautiful little arrangement. It's not like symmetrical or like I found all the right things that go together. This is just a little sampler of some things that really remind me of just the everyday flowers that you saw in Wales. So these two are just what would be growing. Like in the US, you always see like white clover and dandelions just sort of springing up out of the grass down, you know, close to your feet. And in Wales, it was these little things, which I think are a kind of aster. The asters that we have here grow on much longer stems, and they have like big sprays of different blooms. These were growing on individual stems about this far off the ground, but they look like an aster. And then these I know are buttercups. So those were just sort of like the basic flower, like that were just by your ankles all the time that no one even noticed. That is a columbine, and there were really dark purple ones as well, and those grew wild and were really, really spectacular, like three-dimensional sort of looking thing. Then the leaf is from a hawthorn tree, which they say is the entry point to the fairy realm. So I just really liked that. And then this beautiful creeping vine had these tiny little purple flowers on it. If you saw the flower crown that I wore in one of my Instagram posts, that is what that came from. And it was just this beautiful viney blooming moss that was blanketing rock walls everywhere that we went. So just really, really some of my, just a little sampler of some of my favorites. And then the other thing I wanted to show you, and this is not really so much a craft at all, but it is just my little souvenir from Wales. This is my visual diary, and it is just a bunch of little mnemonics, just tiny little souvenirs of things. And there's a full listing on Instagram with a photo of this, of what they are and where they came from, if you're curious. But like, for example, this is some sheep's wool that was just little tufts of it are in the pastures, you know, where the sheep have been. That's some moss from the roof outside my dorm window. There's sand from my very favorite spot, which was a white, it was called White Sands, and it was like a headlands beach area in Pembrokeshire. And just a bunch more little things, even just like a little candy, you know, like they don't have to be from nature. That's a potato chip. This is some seaweed, and it looks kind of like the yarn that's near it, so I like that. I got a couple different types of yarn. But anyway, more details on that in the Instagram post. This, by the way, is the birthday card that I got while I was there from everybody in the program, and it just happens to have been like this, what am I trying to say? Like this, like the squares and the circles. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. You know what I'm saying. Anyway, the fact that they lined up like that was a total coincidence. Grid. How can a person just lose the most basic words? Anyway, it's probably not picking up that great with all the reflection. I'm trying. But I just love this. This was an idea that came from one of our program directors, who is just this absolutely brilliant. She's a writer and a visual artist, so she's just all about like storytelling. She totally understands visual storytelling, which is really the way that I approach things as well, because I wouldn't call myself a visual artist, but I'm very into photography as a way of telling stories, which you'll probably know if you follow me on Instagram, because I'm like pretty obsessed with it. And obviously, you know, knitting and just different things. Like I'm very visual focused and very interested in like aesthetics and visual storytelling. And so this was an idea that came from her. She actually didn't invent it. She got it from a friend as well. But anyway, she showed us one that she had made from a trip to Quebec, and we all made one together where we each contributed something for a trip in Wales, and I just loved the idea so much that I started collecting little things for my own one, ordered this on Amazon while I was there, and then it was waiting for me when I got home, and so I just popped everything in like as soon as I got home. And I just think it is just such a perfect, beautiful souvenir of a place. So I ordered a couple more because as I said, we're going to go to Lisbon in January, and I just really want this to be like a practice for when you travel to special places, because I just think it's really, really, really cool. So yeah, so I wanted to share that because I thought you guys might want to hear a little bit about it, and it might be the kind of thing that knitters would be interested in doing as well. So I will link to this thingy that I bought in the show notes if anyone's interested in finding like the exact one, or just sort of getting an idea of what they're described as in search terms so that you can sort of search for another one for yourself. this was made for keeping beads in. But yeah, so that kind of brings me to the end of everything that I had to share. It's like I want to talk about whales, but it's like it's hard to put everything into words. And I know if you're curious, you've already seen I've uploaded the video of my journey there, and I think that kind of more than anything captures it. It was just really special. It's a really special place, and it was really good for me to just kind of have some time to jump out of my regular life and really focus on my writing and myself and just sort of my own happiness. I've had a difficult year, had a difficult time. I always talk about this stuff because I don't like to get too personal, on this show, but this has been, like, the last couple of years and the last year in particular, it's been a really hard time for me. Things going on in my family and just kind of some struggling with depression and anxiety, and there, I wasn't really expecting how it would make me feel to pick up out of all of that and just let go of it just for a little while and just enjoy a space, get to know a place, spend time with new people, focus on my writing, focus on myself. I think we all just need that sometimes. And for me, like, I'm trying to write an essay about it right now. But one thing is, I always thought of myself as a world traveler. I traveled a lot when I was young. I was very fortunate to have that opportunity. I was an exchange student in Japan when I was 15. Before that, I had already gone to Paris at 14 and Germany and Sweden. When I was 20, I spent some time in the Middle East just seeing unbelievable things. And I really identified as a traveler. I really enjoyed travel. But before I went to Wales, I hadn't left the country in 10 years. And I didn't exactly miss it. I didn't think about missing it consciously because it was like I was just focused on other things. I am a homebody too. Like, that's another part of my personality. I really, really like my home. I really like the city I live in. I like being home. I'm introverted. And I really want, like, a simple life, and I find so much joy in just small, humble pleasures and being in my home and being with my family and all of that kind of thing, And so I guess I had started thinking about myself as not a traveler. Like, I just kind of reframed my idea of who I was and what I wanted in my life. And I think there are extremes on both ends. And what kind of happened to me, in part, what happened to me in Wales was I was reminded of the just uncalculable value of seeing other parts of the world, and that it is really meaningful and in more than just it's fun or it's entertaining, but it's just like, I'm having so much trouble explaining this. It's like we only have so much time on this planet, and the things that we really remember and the things that really shape us sometimes are the times that we've had new experiences, the times that we've been a little uncomfortable, that we've been in a new place or with new people. And I was kind of reminded that I need some of that in my life. I have gotten so into a routine, and I like my routine. It's very comfortable to me, and it helps me deal with various mental illnesses. And but I think I need to be shaken up a little bit every now and then. I think I need to see the other side of the world every 10 years or so, at least. Sometimes I just need to get out of my routine and my constant organization and processing and day-to-day muck, and just be stunned by natural beauty and have a conversation with a person on another side of the world who has a different life than I do, and just remember what it's like to be a human in a really basic way. Like a human outside of my life. Like, who am I outside of the context of what my life looks like now? I think it helped me remember things about myself and who I've always been, because I've changed, I've grown. I'm 30 now. I'm different than I was when I was 20, and I was, climbing sand dunes in Wadi Rum. But there's a lot of me that isn't different. And that part of me is still there. Whenever I pull myself up out of my life, whenever I isolate myself and I am just me away from my life, which is kind of what you do when you travel, it helps you remember who you are. It helps you tap into what makes you happy and what you believe in and just who you are. I hope any of this makes any sense. I feel like I'm being very incoherent, but I am attempting to describe an experience that I hope that you guys relate to or understand. And that is, just one of the joys of life, I think. So I've been kind of pretty emotional lately about, going there and coming back. And I've been listening to a lot of music. I've been, lately just spending so much more time listening to podcasts and audiobooks and stuff. And music hasn't been as big of a part of my life as it used to be. And lately I've just, in Wales and since coming back, I've just been feeling the need to push out the words and feel the emotions more purely, and that's sort of part of what music does for me. Just been doing more of that lately, and just kind of recentering myself, resetting myself. And I'm sure it also is in part tied to the fact that I just had a big birthday. I'm 30 now, and that comes with, as arbitrary as numbers can be, it does come with a bit of a reframing, rethinking about your life, yourself, what you want, what the next 10 years are going to be, So I've just been kind of just kind of in a emotional, very just thoughtful, just kind of having a lot of feelings and thoughts. And that's what's going on with me, guys. I'm going to stop. I'm totally rambling now. But anyway, if you have a chance to go to Wales, I will say that. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in my life. Just beautiful people, beautiful language, beautiful history, beautiful landscape, sheep everywhere. It doesn't get much better. It's a very, very, very special place, and I feel really, really grateful to have had the experience of spending time there. So, yeah. I guess that's all for me for now. I'm going to be back to a more regular schedule after this, so let's see, this is going to be going up. Probably not tomorrow, let's be real, but it's going to be going up maybe on like the 19th or the 20th. And then, yeah, I think I should have another episode up in maybe 3 to 4 weeks. And then I should be back on more of an every 2 week schedule. So after this, I'm going to Cambridge, Mass for my residency. So everything's still very up in the air in my life, but really good to sit down with you guys and catch up. Thanks again just to everyone participating in the FiberQuest KAL. It's just an absolute joy to me to see all of you guys getting excited about trying new fibers and seeing what you're making. Like, it is a true joy. So thank you for that. Next time we'll talk about the winter for plant fibers, and we'll get into some silk. And yeah. Leave me any questions or comments down below if you have them, and like this video if you enjoyed it. It helps me out. I appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you in a little bit. Bye. Hope you're having a great summer or winter if you're down under, which is my favorite season, so it's probably, hope you're having a great time, whatever the weather is. Bye, everybody.